you through the next few weeks. Her name is Puleng Letika. I'm going to leave it over to her to introduce herself. So I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you very much for the last 2 days. I really appreciate getting to know you guys a bit through a chat box. So yeah, if best of luck for the year, and I hope things get better, and that in some way you can make up for everything you couldn't have in your final year. So, Puleng, over to you.
All right, thank you, Adele. Good morning, grade 12. My name is Puleng Nitiga, and I will be your LO teacher for the duration of the lockdown. So yes, I'm just waiting for my slides to respond. Okay, there we go. So on the screen is my name, Puleng Litsiga, and you can find me or you can contact me on my email address if you want to ask me anything with regards to LO. So it is Litika Puleng. Litika is my surname, Puleng is my name, and that would be in small letters at yahoo.com. So Litika Puleng at yahoo.com. I hope everyone is okay. Nice to meet you, and do feel free to use the chat box so that we can have the lesson to be interactive. Now, I know yesterday you did a bit of entrepreneurship and then you did exam question. And then I heard from Adele that one of the chapters that you wanted to cover was the that you wanted to do revision on was democracy and human rights. So I'm going to go back to that today, and then we're going to go through it, and you're going to ask me questions, and then I just want us to interact. You'll give me an indication of whether or not you understand in the chat box. So I will be checking the chat box as we go along, and then I will be asking you questions too. So you will tell me how you feel and you will give me the answers so that we can all see where our understanding is. So I'm only going to cover Unit 1 today, then we'll finish it off tomorrow and start with Unit 2 too, and then hopefully by Friday we will be done with um, democracy and human rights. So today, democracy and human rights is chapter 7. And like I said, we're going to be doing unit 1. So unit 1 is on responsible citizenship. You did this with Sibisiso, teacher Sibisiso. So we're going to go back and cover it. So it's responsible citizenship. We all are citizens. You are going to get an ID book next year when you're oh no, this year I teach grade 11s too. So sorry, I'm thinking of my grade 11s now. So you probably already have your ID book if you've already applied for one, or if Home Affairs has already come to your school. But that means you're already a citizen, but that will enable you to do more things like voting, applying for stuff. Now you'll be an adult and you won't need your parents to approve of you to do certain things anymore. So you can just go sign up maybe for a bank account or whatever you want to in your name. So these are the things that is expected of you as a citizen. So you don't just, there are bad citizens and good citizens. We're going to focus on being a good citizen, a first class citizen. So this is someone who is positive, who's a nation builder, who is going to take part in the development of the country, who is interested in seeing the country grow, and who's interested in seeing the country's economy grow. An active citizen, someone who participates. I see that Tabani has their hand raised. So Tabani, Tabani?
Ma'am,
Yes.
I was asking how are we going to be able to answer any questions if the chats are unable?
Okay. I'm going to ask them to able your chat when I ask you the questions. Okay, let's see if we can do that. Uh, I'll see if our host can do that, and then if we can't, then we'll keep on using the mic. We'll use our mic. All right. Let's see as we go along. So, the lesson objective for today is that you must know and understand how to be a responsible citizen. So, we're going to share and discuss how we're going to be a responsible citizen. Okay, moving on to our first slide. Keywords. So these are the keywords that you need to know in order to understand this chapter and in order to understand what your responsibilities are as a citizen or how you go about being a responsible citizen. So campaigns. So we do see a lot of campaigns going on in the country. So, what is a campaign? A campaign is this is the first bullet point, is a planned series of actions intended to achieve a particular aim. So it is a planned series of actions intended to achieve a particular aim. So we see campaigns, let's say we're going to make an example with the campaigns that the government has on HIV. So maybe they'll have a campaign during the 16 days of activism. Then they'll have, oh no, not 16 days of activism that's for gender-based violence, but I know on the 1st of May, it is World AIDS Day. So maybe during that month too, that is the month that they also dedicate a few programs and campaigns on HIV. What they'll do is they'll spread the message, they'll do visibility, they'll go out there and take messages out there to the public on abstinence, on how to prevent HIV. So the government will say this campaign will be for the month or it will be for 3 months, and the aim of the campaign will be to lower the HIV infection rate in the country, or to just try and make sure that the new infections, we don't have as many new infections as we have before. So that would be a campaign. And then violations. A violation would be interfering with a person's rights, doing something that is against the law. So when you interfere with a person's rights, you know that we all have rights. We're going to go through the rights, the kinds of rights that we have. So you infringing on that person's rights, we'll go through it, and then would be a violation to that person, and then doing something that is against the law, meaning maybe committing a crime, stealing, or committing fraud or corruption. Let's say if you're a politician and then you go and loot the money in the municipality, so that would be seen as a criminal offense. You're going against the law in that the money has been set aside for developing the municipality and delivering basic services. So if you go and tap into the municipality's account, maybe you work for the finance department in the municipality, and then you have access to maybe the money that is being paid, maybe through the rates and taxes that the people are sending in. So you just go and use the money in that account with a few, maybe a network of you. So basically, what would happen is that you will be infringing the law. It would be a criminal act of stealing, so that would be a violation of the law. And it is a violation of the law against people because it does affect people. So when there's no development and there's no basic delivery of services because now the budget that was supposed to go to uh, doing the services is now being spent on maybe buying someone who works in the, like I said, the finance department, a luxury car or a better house in a leafy suburb. And it's not that that person doesn't get paid already. So they just want, they're greedy and they want more. So that would be a violation on your right because you also need to get that road built in front of your home, or you need to get those potholes filled so that your cars don't get damaged, so that there's no traffic and you can get to school on time. But if there's a road that is not yet finished and that has been under construction for maybe more than 6 months, so it causes traffic, plus the other road has potholes, then you aren't able to go to school on time, you arrive late, and if you miss a period, then that infringes on your right to education. So you aren't able to study well. So I'm just trying to show you how a violation of the law would like infringe on your rights. So project is the third bullet point. A project is a planned activity that has a specific purpose to improve something, usually to take place that usually takes place over a long time. So maybe a project would be to roll in digitization in schools, maybe to make sure that schools are also up to date with fourth IR, like uh, fourth industrial revolution. So basically, what the government maybe will try to do and say over the next 3 years, we're going to roll out a project, and this project is to make sure that each and every child has a tablet that they can use in class. Maybe their textbooks can be loaded onto the tablet and the worksheets, and they can be given activities to complete. And then maybe they can have unlimited access to Wi-Fi at school, and maybe they can deal with the challenges. They can try to see what the challenges are to the system. So, for instance, yes, it has been rolled out. It has started to roll out in some schools, and then in other schools, not yet. So, we see the importance of something like that now during the lockdown, where nobody planned for the lockdown. But I think if we had just completed that stage and every school was able to had already had this rolled out and had already like had the whole digital thing, the whole tablet thing and internet access thing flowing already, then we wouldn't have a problem with some learners not having access to virtual learning. Some learners not having access to the internet, and some learners not having devices, maybe a tablet or a laptop. You see now that what the government is doing. I don't know if you saw this, but the government is rolling out tablets for varsity students, the ones that are on financial aid. So there's a budget set to roll out laptops so that they can take part in virtual learning and do their work at home. So basically, that is a project too. So it will be maybe, I don't know how long. They said the problem right now, the biggest problem is capacity. So the finances are maybe there, but capacity is now finding a company that will give you 700 laptops, no, 700,000 laptops at one time. So if they were able to access 700,000 laptops at one time, then the project would run out as quickly as they wanted to run, and learning would not be disrupted and would go on smoothly. So those are projects. So in a democracy, there are campaigns by the government. There are also campaigns by people. So people, you can start your own campaign, whether it's for GBV, gender-based violence campaign, or even something like the environment, like saving the environment or saving animals, saving rhinos, conserving nature. It doesn't necessarily have to be something political, but also saving the environment or our animals is a positive contribution because you're keeping indigenous animals alive, you're keeping our indigenous plants here because those are things that also attract tourists. They come here to see our rhinos, the kind of breeds that we have. They come here to see our buffaloes and they come here to also see our fauna, maybe our protea, because our protea is our national flower. It is indigenous to South Africa. And they do come here to see maybe our cycads and other plants. So by doing that, we also are taking part in campaigns, violations. It is your responsibility, obviously, to make sure that you don't violate another person's rights. And then projects, yes, you can also embark on projects. If you're going to work in the private sector, then the private sector does do some projects too. So those would be keywords. So moving on to our next slide. So this is we're focusing more and deeper on responsible citizenship. Responsible citizenship means that you do your duty as a citizen, you fulfill your responsibilities and do what is right or expected of you as a citizen. So, as a responsible citizen, so these are a list of things that you can do as a responsible citizen, or you should do as a responsible citizen. So, you should be aware of and respect and promote human rights. So you will go to your constitution. I hope you have one. You should try to find a copy of one or download it. I think there is a constitution online available. Our country's constitution. You can download it. It's probably a PDF, or maybe you can read through it, which has all the rights. So this is so that you're aware, you can go through it so that you're aware of your own rights, the rights that you have. And that means that it's not necessarily for someone else. So you must know your rights and then once you know your rights, you also know that you need to respect the same rights for other people. And then you need to promote those rights. So in areas where you see that those rights aren't being protected or aren't being infringe, then you can promote the rights. For instance, like I said, if there is a poaching of rhinos or there is a poaching of elephants, then you will go and participate in that and promote the rights to take care of the responsibility rather to take care of our environment and of our um, indigenous animals and everything else that we have. So the second bullet points are concerned about the welfare of others. So welfare, whether someone has had their meal, whether someone has clothes, whether someone has shelter, and whether the child next door maybe is going to school or not. If they're staying at home and they're not going to school, maybe welfare would be calling a social worker, calling the social development people, and just making sure that the rights of that child or those people are taken care of. So you're just taking care of the next person. So it's not very far fetched. It's something that's very close to you. We don't leave it to big NGOs and leave it to big companies. For instance, maybe companies are now doing social corporate responsibility. So it doesn't always have to be left to big institutions and big organizations. It can start with you. The reason why you're also learning it is because as a responsible citizen, you can also do your part in it. So it would just be looking at your friends and looking next door and looking whether you have a soccer club outside school, or you have an arts club, or you have maybe at your church or at your spiritual group, whatever you're doing, whether you can pick up that someone is not having a meal to eat, doesn't have enough clothes or whatever, and maybe you can share something with them to eat, or share something with your clothes with them, or try to help someone out who's struggling with math or science, have someone close to them, then everyone is covered. So even a big company or an institution that doesn't necessarily have the eyes to see, um, why isn't this billionaire doing something? The other two billionaires sponsored maybe a million each. Now everyone is trying to make someone else accountable. But if each and everyone can do something, if you can share your food with the person next door or someone that you're struggling with, you can give them your old clothes, then everyone can be taken care of. I mean, if you make it your responsibility and not say a certain celebrity has money or has been saying they're loaded all this time, so now why can't they pitch up? It is everybody's responsibility. Just as they can take part, then everyone can take part. So this is a time where we can check on others. So we should be concerned about the welfare of others. Reason being, some people haven't got paid, they haven't got their UIF, and they aren't able to go to work, obviously, because of the lockdown. And some of the companies haven't opened because they're not part of the companies that should be open now with our level 4. So they are in times of need. So that would be the concern and welfare of others. So take up fights in campaigns, projects, and events that fight against the violation of human rights. So that is like similar to the first bullet point and the second bullet point. So this is about being an active citizen, taking part in campaigns where you fight against gender-based violence. I know there is a gender-based violence group, Sonke. It's an NGO, so you can be part of it, where they teach men. They have a program on teaching men about toxic masculinity, on how men can improve themselves and be respectful towards women. And then, in the same way, there is also a space where women are also taught that we need to live dually, and it is both a female and a male's responsibility for to make sure that they live in harmony and live in a peaceful way. So projects will also be the same. I mean, obviously the fight is against a violation of our human rights. You can fight against crime. You can fight so that we can have a better South Africa. We see service delivery strikes and so forth. I think that some people mean good, really, when they protest and say we want better services. We do see service delivery fights all over South Africa. And then another thing is that maybe some people might have an attitude or have a problem with campaigns or petitions or strikes or protests because they see people maybe destroying infrastructure during their petitions or protests. So basically, it is bad to destroy infrastructure. For instance, maybe burning a library, burning a police car. That is bad. It's not just bad because you're destroying property, but the property is intellectual and it does cost money to pay for it. So in order to now replace that, you're going to need to spend taxpayers' money again in order to replace that, and that means more budget. also from the government needs to be allocated to replace whatever it is that you have destroyed. So now basically when you try to fight against a certain thing or a violation, you also need to be responsible enough to not destroy property or to like vandalize any property or building that belongs to the government or to private institution or people's personal properties and personal possessions. So obey the law. Obeying the law is important because obviously you will be committing a crime when you don't obey the law. And I'm going to make examples with things that are very close to us. So I'm not going to go far. These are things that you can do at your level because if we do these things, then we will have more harmony and we will see less accidents and we'll just have a better environment. So obeying the law maybe will include something that you can do is road safety. Yes, Elijah, I see that your hand is raised. Elijah, you can speak to me. Elijah, okay. Right. I don't know if let me see. Yes, you can speak to me. I've unmuted you. Come closer to your mic. Elijah? Okay, no, I don't know. I can't seem to hear you, but I can hear that you're trying to speak to me. Okay, I'm going to have to move on because now I can't hear anything. So please maybe go to the chat box if it's open and then try to ask your question there if it is open. All right. So obeying the law, like I just said, obeying the law would be maybe obeying the rules on the road, driving on the left hand side of the road, putting on your seatbelt, knowing the roads for the rules for the road, driving with a driver's license, not driving drunk, and not driving underage, making sure that you follow the process of getting a learner's, getting a driver's license, then driving or driving with someone until you have experience of driving. So those are laws too. So you know that driving without a driver's license or breaking the rules of the road or not wearing a seatbelt, those are criminal offenses. That's why when a metro police officer finds you, they will charge you and you will get a fine. If it wasn't a law that you were breaking, then you wouldn't have to pay 600 rand or however much that you have to pay when you break the laws. So basically, that would be a rule, an example of rules. So moving on to the last bullet point for the slide, participate in civil and political activities as well as vote in elections and pay your taxes. So participating in civil and political activities are if there are referendums or when you have to vote. For instance, if you're asked to come and take part in making the decision of whether you want what can we make an example with? Let's say they're trying to introduce a law where they're trying to ban alcohol completely. Like they've been saying, some people have been suggesting during our lockdown that alcohol should be banned completely, because they're seeing that because alcohol is has been banned during our lockdown, there's less crime, there are less emergencies in the emergency rooms and in hospitals. They're saying that there are less car accidents. So some people have been saying, if these are the effects of not having alcohol or not being allowed to drink or purchase alcohol, then maybe this is a good thing. Maybe we should just continue with it after the lockdown. All right, let me see. Okay, so maybe we should just continue with it after the lockdown. So maybe before they do this, if they want to make it a law, then they would have a civil participation, a participation where they come and ask you as citizens. Okay, okay, Elijah, but now we're running out of time. So, okay, you were in the bathroom, but I've got 15 minutes left and I'm trying to cover the work. So, yes, let's see. Okay, there we go. And then obey human law, yes. And then so they would come to maybe your nearby halls or your school halls, just to come and hear what you have to say. They'll have you participate in saying, yes, we want this to happen, or no, we don't want this to happen. We don't want to um, legalize um, alcohol. So let me see what Kyle, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Kyle Hendry. The reason there is less crime and accidents, this is in the chat box. The reason there is less crime and accidents is because we are not allowed to drive as much as we did. Less cars, less accidents. Can't blame it on alcohol. That is also a popular opinion by people who love their alcohol. So it is also a valid opinion. So that's good. Thank you for raising that, Kyle. So, participating, yes, we saw on that. It is an example. So that would be one of the reasons that we could give to the government. If the government comes to our community hall, we could say to them, no, we can't ban alcohol because alcohol is not contributing towards there being less road accidents. The reason why there are less accidents is because there are less cars out there being allowed to travel. So less cars, less car accidents. So that would be your opinion. That would be the reason why you should be there and why you should participate, because that would be your opinion. And if you don't put it out there, then the government will make a ruling and say that you cannot continue to do this because this is how we view it. And then political activities, yeah, maybe marching against crime or taking part in your meetings, your local ward council meetings. And then voting, you have to vote. Okay, if you do want to vote, but it is your responsibility to vote if you're a citizen, so that you can make decisions, you can help make the decisions that will affect you. You are in the country, any decision that is made will definitely affect you indirectly or directly. So if we decided to cut down trees for more land for manufacturers, or just clear trees so that we can build a mall and just turn South Africa into a concrete jungle, and you don't go out and say, I don't want this to happen. So basically what you'll be doing is saying maybe that we should lose more oxygen because trees are providing us with the oxygen that we need, and maybe the quality of air that we're going to have in our country will be less. So basically, that would be it. I mean, paying your taxes, it is your responsibility as a citizen to pay your taxes. Taxes is what gives us the total amount of money that we can spend in the country, that we can spend in health, education, social development, that we spend on grants so that people can go to the clinic for free. Clinics are free for people in some areas. Education is, there are non-fee paying schools for people who don't have money to pay for their education. So we do have situations like that. So it is important to pay for your tax. And then, yes, let's move on. Let me see, did we move on to the next slide? We're moving on to the next slide. Um, let's go. Evaluate your position on discrimination and human rights violations. Let me check quickly the chat box. Okay, Lucidi, let me read your what you've written in the chat. Miss Bilem, by the looks of it, I honestly don't think this lockdown will be over just yet, I think, because the people aren't obeying the rules. I mean, look at the rapid rise of COVID-19 cases. Does the government really want us to return to school at, at a level as high as this? So that would also be an opinion that you have. So if the government is fair, then they shouldn't maybe make the decisions behind closed doors. What they would do is should maybe invite the public, both learners and teachers, so that there was a meeting, I think a Zoom meeting that was televised where they allowed people, they gave the link on social media and they allowed people to voice their opinions. So that is a good opinion, Lucidi. We are seeing a rise in COVID-19 cases. So it might not be safe to open up schools unless if the government really has a good plan on how they're going to do it. So maybe delaying the opening of schools would be a good idea for now until we maybe until after the peak. They say the peak is in September, or what they can do is just phase in. Like, okay, I don't want to like be the person out here to give my opinions. I just want to leave it open so that everybody can have their own opinions, so I'm not gonna say much. I don't want to seem like um I'm imposing my opinion on anyone. So whatever happens, happens. That is a good opinion, but you would have to raise it. So that's why it is important to watch the news if there are meetings and they do allow people to speak to the meetings, or if you're not gonna speak at a meeting, send an email. You email the Department of Education, or you can just use your social media platforms, you hashtag, you add. So whatever you can do just to make sure that your opinion is out there. That doesn't make you someone who's fighting. It just makes you someone who's interested in taking care of themselves and taking care of their well-being. You're the one at the end of the day who will be exposed to the virus. So if you're not gonna share your opinion about it, then it is your life being put in danger. So evaluate the current slide that we're on. Evaluate your position on discrimination and human rights violations. So if you evaluate your position if you evaluate your position on discrimination and human rights violations, you critically analyze your own viewpoints, behavior, opinions, and attitudes towards these issues. You can consider your position by taking the following into account. So, this is about evaluating your own viewpoints and behavior and opinions. Basically, it's objectivity. You know what? It's just making sure that you're being objective in whatever view that you have. So basically, if you want to check whether you are being fair or not, then you might want to have a look at your Bill of Rights. Like I said, this is going to be found in your Constitution. So you need to have a copy of the Constitution so that you can know the Bill of Rights. The the Bill of Rights is a cornerstone of democracy in South Africa. It enshrines the rights of all people in our country and affirms the democratic values of human dignity, equality, and freedom. So this Bill of Rights tells us, gives us like what we what we should look at as South African citizens. For instance, I've made an example there. It has rights like the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, the freedom of press. Press is media, journalism, different types of media, whether it's radio, television, newspapers, magazines. So this is the right for media to write stories in a way that they are not influenced by any corporate or whoever might government or whoever anyone feels that might be controlling the media. And then also the freedom to petition. We've covered that. Freedom to protest, petition. So these are things covered in your Bill of Rights. So if you know, and they will be covered in detail in your Bill of Rights. So if you know what these rights are and you've read up on it, then you can check your view against what the Bill of Rights says. I mean, if you can see whether you're being fair or not. Basically, if you are totally against what the Bill of Rights says, then maybe you will be violating another person's rights. So, moving on to the next slide. Mm, Let's move on to the next slide. Discrimination. Discrimination means to discriminate against others by treating them against others, by treating them unfairly, sorry, and unequally because they are or you think they are different from you. So discrimination is just basically treating someone differently because they are different from you or because you think they're different from you. So human rights violations, second bullet point, means hurting, disrespecting, or acting against someone's rights. For example, the right to equality is the most infringed right in South Africa. So the right to equality would be maybe in race, everyone must be equal in gender. Both male and female should be represented equally, and maybe children's rights should not be ignored just because they're children. They should also have equal rights to their parents or their guardians or their governments. So you can't say to an adult physical abuse is bad. So a man can't abuse a woman in the say yes it is wrong in the same breath and then say that you can hit a child at school or you can administer corporal punishment because if you can't hit each other as adults, why should you now hit children in schools? So that is like an imbalance of some sort or a contradiction of some sort. So basically that is the right to equality. So that would be it. I think that's it for today. We've also like that is in good time. That is like in 45 minutes. Thank you for joining me for the lesson. This is our first lesson together. So I hope you enjoyed it. I mean, we're going to continue tomorrow with, like I said, human rights, democracy, and human rights. I mean, we'll do it until we're done with it. and we will carry on with the questions and answering and going through everyone's opinions and making sure that everyone is okay. So please join me for tomorrow's class, which will be at 10 o'clock. And oh, today is Wednesday, so tomorrow will be Thursday. So sorry about that mistake. And then you can, for more information, you can contact Africa Teen Gigs. Remember to sign up for the newsletter so that you can get updates and know when we're changing links. And then you can also contact Africa Teen Gigs on social media. So you can find them at Africa Teen Gigs on all social media platforms. And then please remember that you can email me at buleng no, at litsikapuling at yahoo.com. Thank you very much for sticking with me. Goodbye and see you tomorrow. Let me see quickly.